Hell, there are people from different parts of Weathersfield who sought me out to make confessions when I was growing up, like a Mark Violette and a Justin Kovinskis. And they implied that they knew my neighbors, that they lived around the river. But I found out later, and so they're trying to make it look like we were connected. And they made some of them, they were exceptions. I really know them. Others, they had their names repeated to me, like Joshua Julian, one of the ones recorded with the principal child offender, sexual, medical, and with and legal interbranch names, prosecutors, judges, ones with the name Violette, a whole bunch of people at Harvard Hospital involved at UConn with medical corruption with foreign and domestic military. Also, as ones at Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College, planting evidences next to it. A bunch of people knew my names. I don't know their name. Tied to the same houses near me, involved with predicate acts at Harvard Hospital with foreign and domestic, Russians, Ukrainian, um, Koreans. So the people with the Violette too. There's a girl, I don't know her name. I never saw her. I saw her one time. Just they non-verbally demonstrated to me. She was reportedly dragged to her death, and the spot where she was dragged to and from. And the only time I ever saw her, I remember seeing her from next to Harvard Hospital with one of the Violette brothers. And that's also with the a DeMorrow family there, the DeMorrow's market there. Now it's in Rocky Hill. Those spots through time are involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, with foreign and domestic medical families and families associated with the schools, planting evidences and databases, fake ties and fake natures of ties between kids, as people that have roles with collusions where all sides in criminal and civil cases and the court's names at the same time as the news plant the same sequence shifts, federal evidences crimes, and uses of it roles, as in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center towers. A whole bunch of people tied to this Violette and people involved with the body dumping spot of Belly Grasso and other body dumping spots, increasingly involved with corruption on off the Connecticut State Corrections offices and judicial branch offices. All kinds of medicines corruption involved with legal judges and prosecutors, also tactically delusions wrought as evidences. They also, that's why they forge and switch names because they can't defend their syntax on paper because of the breaching method. They came through campuses that had other communicated for our founders. For example, our founders behind James Madison's plan and him communicated for us to blame things on the breaching method that we have instead blamed on other things, others ourselves and our founders. We left out how the breaching method was measuring, maintaining collusions with itself, or was sensing and hurting those people individually grouped and together and everyone next to each other. So no one would trust everyone rightfully. And so everyone had to trust each other wrongfully. So everyone would use simultaneous nature as criminal and citizen's natures, incapable of defending that and of affording to be, let alone to protract, short with words with conviction and with nature and or with nature proper too. And if they're not proper simultaneously, we're supposed to sense per nature, but we have descriptions of how logic, reason, and instances and names are valued that can't defend itself and afford to have a quality of fact, cheap nature. We're supposed to get dictated, demanded. In other words, so increasingly proven child offenders, leaders of the kids, have roles with people that planted evidence, federal evidences, crime roles, and wire crimes with the ones that are increasingly involved with Weathersfield police forging and switching names and making confessions where they're obfuscating names involvements. Phil Colo was one of the ones with the Joshua Julian, increasingly involved with whiting forensics and directions for news to put fake news with as collusions, including with criminal enterprises, but not as they have been grouped in the past, because that's recorded. Just like, for example, how we are, for example, relative to where and how the breaching method assigned uses of black and white in responses to it and or responses to it as collusions with its needs to keep itself screened and to keep other things, others or selves blamed for things it caused, like slavery and like negative value nature progressions, acts and natures that the suburbs were designed to only be capable of causing. while being a landscape theater, increasingly not being able to discern it and explain it properly because they had been weaned on more and more. The only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures is to self-value roles with criminal and cis natures of positive treatments syntactically and as names treatments that are collusions with the negatives, forced by the roles, forced by the breaching method, to that knew that nature itself was going to increasingly demonstrate to us. A breaching method is a scientific value as one of the things that is true always, that slavery is and was about. It's about a human fact treatment nature breaching method. It's about things that are only natural as criminal insidiousness nature. Nature has means to show us how natural law. And we have means to interpret this as the Constitution unabridged. Simultaneously, as the reason there is an amendment, we have rights that are too numerous to list. Simultaneously, while there is the value of Marbury versus Madison, but there is replaced his communications about the breaching method that was entrenched as a breaching method / methods, where all the plural roles are used to duck behind better than perfectly, increasingly. Unless we use natural law and our natural means, how reason actually properly works, proper descriptions of it. And this, I'll show you this. In other words, we can examine how time is bound 5 ways distinctly from how it is bound 3 ways. For example, there's an extent of the past we know is true always. There's an extent that is active group now that we know is true always. There's an extent of the future, like for example, with the seasons, we know its value now already. And then there are those 2 other parts of time that we know we don't know about. And when we appreciation of this shows us also the increasing value of the difference about how the same identity of hypersimultaneous is grouped distinctly 5 ways from how it is grouped the 3 ways. In appreciation of this, study of this shows us the nature's method of equally increasingly value as a portion of itself that we could discern. Its complete identity of relationship to itself, inseparable from all things made up, and the truth, though. And its identity of relationship to itself comes with the value of that. It's better. Its complete identity of relationship to itself is equally with that subject as truth. But as truth, that's true always. This is how it shows us how to think and reveal answers. Knowing that there's, and searching to make sure that the truth is not usually being used by ourselves or by others as a criminal insidious nature of use of truth. A truth can be used for lies, to screen lies. And see, we would have realized this. But so we have logic experts. There's ones with the name Leahy involved with a Justin Klovinskis and a Mark Violette, who have been planting evidences with interstates, with state police families, Weathersfield police, and names and Hartford police families, Rock Hill police families, and names on my street, and they're educators. I never had a class with the Violette brothers. They have roles with names on Elm Street and Rocky Hill, increasingly with people who did have class with me and others I don't know who went out of their ways to plant evidence and pretend that may have others pretend other. Tied to the same house, like with the name Colo, involved wire crimes and the confessions of the police, switching and forging names. And involved also with their confessions tied to the people involved with Smith. And medical families at the same time made confessions and brought these things up. Fake conversations with me through the mail, too. And they're hiding this from Judge Napolitano, lying about why. It's more criminal to fake conversations with people that pretend that you can't speak about things because you're a doctor. And in other words, a whole bunch of people tied to a Brendan Leahy have been planting evidences with judges and prosecutors and foreign and domestic families at the same time, as ones tied to child abusers increasingly Quinnipiac University has federal evidences, crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders with a Kevin Harris involved with prosecutors and judges, and a Rick Cianfaglione involved with wire crimes with the intelligence families on my street in the past, who are increasingly involved with the ones with the wire crimes, with the Wethersfield and police, increasingly refusing to identify themselves, attaching little kids to fake conversations with themselves. Then, as adults, covering it up by having the news pretend such for themselves too. Then those stories get wiped away. And then, in other words, these are also recorded time uses, instances of them using investigators, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. They also have counters to the criminal enterprises as collusions originally instilled. We're in how criminal insidiousness nature shows us was demonstrably propagated by the breaching method relative to how we have black pupils, whites of eyes, the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. So you guys don't realize when you're using words like mafia or gangs and you're separating these things, you're leaving out all the private criminal enterprises and the roles with the interbranch and the difference between them and the intelligence tied to them and or their state offices, the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices and the state of Connecticut corrections offices forced Saudis to collusions with them. Simultaneously, while the Saudis who attacked us forced collusions with the counters. For example, collusions with torture, collusions with the medicines crimes, and tactical delusions, propagation roles, pretending others simultaneously, tied to courts and families with the same more than three probate court judges have wire crimes and federal rules of evidences crimes with child offenders tied to the same house and their extended family members from Connecticut. Forensics names and state corrections and judicial branch offices increasingly involved with planting evidences between classes with people that don't even know each other. They try to make fake exceptions. There was a Michelle Sandquist and her maiden name, and people involved with the news media on off campuses, further roles with more sexual and medical offenders of kids. Also, that involved with a Lance Cuddy. She confessed. I never responded to it. And there's the daughter of a principal when she was in sixth grade. She has roles of people increasingly involved with the body don't big spot of Billy Grasso, involved with people that were in my fourth grade class, involved with people with the name Morin and Gold, who was not in my fourth grade class, but Asal Sabiella was. And he was involved playing. I never had a conversation with him at campus, never saw him around kids. I saw him in my fourth grade class, outside of class, never had a conversation in class, never rude to him, he never rude to me. In other words, the Morins, one of the names of one of the families involved with the FBI and lawyers at FBI and of Wethersfield Police on and off the Wethersfield town offices involved through administrations with predicate acts methods recorded. And see, these are methods where I'm using evidences that are also involved them pretending evidences are real into databases when others are recorded. And they're putting fake motives for it. So a whole bunch of people, different countries are involved, like Afghanistan since the 90s and earlier, and some black KKK themed involved with Mark Violette and Ray Clough with the military, foreign and domestic military, and their rules with the different natures and qualities of drugs, attaching people to fake uses of drugs, all exceptions and fake uses of alcohol, all exception nature used to pretend other, putting people in fake ties to people, fake nature of ties to people, fake motivations for forcing conversations, and for the confessions relative, including by the police that are refusing to get on paper since I was a kid. They've been stacking falsified police reports rolls, also with all sides in criminal and civil cases, as ones involved at the World Trade Center attack and places next to it like the Ninth Circuit Court, rolls with uses of all sides in that case, as people involved with predicate acts on off Central Connecticut State University increasingly involved with predicate acts with names in my area. and they'll tell you themselves. You have to ask them, right? They already attached everyone to fake. So they repeat things, have people say it, and they lock out the foreign names involved with them. A whole bunch of Koreans involved, like with Taekwondo places in Rocky Hill and Weathersfield, involved with Weathersfield police families and Rocky Hill police families, and a whole bunch of ones tied to the Colo and tomorrow involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and Mike Roberts. They have roles with state police families, interstates, Rhode Island, Maine, Massachusetts, roles with the people that tow cars, roles with ducking behind actual motivations. Like why they bring their kids up into the roles in the news, pretending passions and emotions and motivations as the recorded sequence shifts collusions. So that's why it's important not to have people fake evidences. They have Judge Napolitano's Facebook page involved. A whole bunch of people tied to a Subby Bajario have and are people I don't even know the names of, never saw Subby Bajario around the inside of a school. The only time I ever saw him a couple times on the side of a school. Both times they were planting evidences with judges and foreign and criminal enterprises at the same time, lying about themselves and others. And fake ties, it has something to do with the roles, with conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices also, and their roles with names next to Central Connecticut State University, as people increasingly between campuses attaching kids that don't even know each other to fake locations, fake ties, fake natures of ties to each other. And so they say, oh, those people are making allegations. That's why they've been using courts since founding to force check and hurt. In other words, they're self-valuing how there are streams into courts each day. And they can't have a quality of fact, human nature proper, because they've already been predicate acts for facts, methods, roles, and nature's roles. Forgiveness, for example, is not to leave out the breaching method, and is not to leave out how to discern the breaching method, which comes through the discernment of collusions with it. Like collusions with it are discernible where and how you have other things, others ourselves, blamed than a breaching method, a predicate acts with facts delivery system method, a criminal insidiousness nature delivery system method as the answer for what caused slavery. What caused slavery was entrenched before America's founders were born with the design of suburban homes already designed. Anyone wanted to speak about other was sensed and hurt, and that was known to them. That was the law. Criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, only capable of propagating overt criminal enterprises and private ones, only allowing it. So it could hide behind the differences of criminal insidiousness natures. I don't have to be a lawyer. Lawyers are recorded also at Trantolo, and Trantolo is recorded digital offenders of kids with the FBI, CIA, Secret Service, and other police forms, courts, police forms, involved with fabricating and changing digital evidences, uses of those locations for torture before the World Trade Center attack in it and since, uses of rights to lie and directions to lie, like about relative to illusions, where we have a whole bunch of nature speaking about things like crime and punishment together on and off campuses while they have nuclear weapons pointed at each other, and their tactically delusions wrought from here to there. That's why the suburbs look just like America in Russia, and how they were designed before America's founders were born. Not one modern country was born without collusions with the base, criminally foreign influence. The foundation. The republic is a criminal re-engineering of itself. That is more probable and demonstrable. And how time is bound 5 ways, distinctly from how bound 3 ways, shows that it is more probable and practical, for example, that this is relative, that the Old Testament and the Quran, there are scientific hyper-archaeological evidences also where and how they knew that the people that would defend the books and counter them and exceptions would stay in collusions with as uses of identity racketeering roles. That's what this is. Another thing it is all the way. You want to deny that systems, leaving out how nature communicates and what nature communicates with Black people's ways of life. In other words, if you want to appreciate that for too, you also have to describe the breaching methods and employments of it to mean other. Before America's founders were born, before their parents were born. This came from semi-ancient times. Why do you think there was religious messengers who had to leave cipher and direct too? That's why the Old Testament and the Quran come to parts that say, if you want to defend these books, only right here is the part you have to defend. You can't do it. So you have people defend it out of sequence as psychopaths, tactically delusions raw too. That's why they have problems. It would be solved because individuals of the individual species body would defend what nature shows is right. If someone doesn't want to wear a burqa or whatever they call it, they don't have to. It says only they have to do is be honest and defend this part right here, the way it says in the Quran. And with the Old Testament, it says only defend this part right here and the part that comes before it. People don't do that. They defend it out of sequence like psychopaths. You guys don't care about Jesus. You hear people pretending about Jesus because they have predicate acts with facts roles. Because when it comes down to it, you ask them a simple thing, get them interbranch on paper, one name and sequence. They're going to change what you say because they have collusions. Also, they attach people on a mass scale, fake conversations about religion, how they're getting away with it, all kinds of, tactical delusions, criminally foreign influence, fact, nature, quality aspects in nature manifest with the convictions of people, with their opinions on things. When they ask questions, they're asking questions. You use the way the breaching method employed questions to be asked for itself, not the way nature asks, not valuing the value of sequence truth. Nature itself shows us. Pay attention to how the Native Americans sickly distinctly had this breaching method upon them that never left. Sickly distinctly, the colonists had it upon it. They never left. It's manifest when they speak about the Civil War, leaving out how the breaching method forced that Civil War, leaving out how our founders forced it also before it came. They had to counter-extort the other founders. They had to force states to be. Why they had to force it? Because everyone was forced to hurt each other and or help each other as criminal and serious natures of positives. In collusions with the negatives to keep from discernment the identity of the breaching method. Every identity, even one made up, has relativity to positive and negative simultaneously, because this is identity's hypervolume science. Hypervolume /S. Its identity of relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that equally generated all things that are temporary /lasting. Where and how the identity of hypersimultaneous makes more of itself. English was more probably and increasingly demonstrably revealed to teach this with the other ancient languages, incapable of being defended as is, without self-valuing. The other sciences individually grouped together too. Criminally foreign influence, fact, shape, nature, quality aspects of nature, styles of it. Nature forces you to be a style of criminal and serious nature. As the breaching method knew it would, if you want to deny these sacred things, sayings. So people pretend passions and emotions because they are maintained only capable of it. Because there's emotions racketeering. Because emotions are about the simultaneous / hyper-simultaneous and or the value of what came first. That's true. That's why and how nature is showing us. Nature's identity itself is hyper-native pure. And that's why we all long to be. Hyper-native pure system. That's why and how we have the audacity to fight with Native Americans for the same reason Native Americans fight with Native Americans, but leave out how president / chief is really manifest. Because other things, others ourselves, were blamed and are blamed for what really made them fight originally and still syntactically with each other, not because they're fighting. No, for positive reason, how to counter impositions caused by fact-cheaping nature impositions. The quality aspects in nature of fact-cheaping nature as criminal insidiousness. In other words, we're being used as pushed Native Americans onto reservations, not not for the reasons pretended, not just because they wouldn't take part with the needs to make a unified nation, because the people who were taking part with that were forced to, and they weren't really doing it right either. We can only do this by understanding James Madison's plan in that breaching method, which was entrenched. How that breaching method knew that there would be a whole bunch of methods as collusions with itself, sustained, and then it would be able to increasingly duck behind nature's needs styles of criminal insidious nature, juxtaposed increasingly self-valuing the worst causes of negative value nature progressions, acts of natures having been blamed on other things, others ourselves, and being blamed on them. How do you think they get away with pretending that New York City is not tactically denatured with predicate acts, with facts, methods concentrated on its citizens, each age and nature of difference, like each their age? The elderly of New York, sickly, distinctly multi-front, hurt from the kids, sickly, distinctly multi-front, hurt and helped by from the middle age, because this is a multi-front. This method uses differences like that, tactical ulterior from how nature does. And they knew that people are going to have these suits and ties counted, pretend they could speak for practical reason. Use Immanuel Kant's phrase, fear God. Boxing. So, Violette is recorded roles with wire crime acts and methods that also involve the intelligence fabricating audio and video, fake conversations with kids, and they do tricks with around their own kids. They have kids from other areas come in and then make it look they're one group together in the background where they're putting fake things in databases no one's looking into. Such anomaly never stopped being exploited. Since before computers, databases were involved with this breaching method and its exploitation of relativity / hyperrelativity. We're also going to examine this. The criminally foreign influence and tactically delusions wrought uses of theories and uses of words like research and estimations of the value of the expert of the words of experts just because they're an expert. Fear God. Boxing.